People in 2007, everybody was saying Kevin 07. People weren't looking at voting for the local member, they were voting for Kevin 07. And what they got, of course, was a guy that sort of sits on his tongue and sits on his hands and is a disciple to the party. Now, in 2.5 years, we've lost. Let's start at it. We lost our NQEA contract for the Defence Force. We lost Cairns Youth Mentoring Scheme. $50,000, gave it away. Aboriginal and Islands Alcohol Relief Service, Area Consultative Committee, the list goes on. The latest was the Marine and Tropical Science Research Facility. They just give them away. And every time that happens, he says he's got an excuse, and he says, well, we'll have another jobs forum. I mean, if you're going to create a jobs forum, you'd hope that you'd create it for new industries. You wouldn't create have a jobs forum. As quick as you create a job, you're losing 10 jobs.
These were programs, of course, that had a long track record of proving themselves too.
And they were very, very successful. I mean, $40 million out of the Metso for a loan. And I find it quite unbelievable that he would allow it to go without any argument at all. And now, of course, you're talking about the Coral Sea, the no fishing zone. I mean, the industry is still recovering from the green zones, and that was done under my government. But what I was successful in doing, because I opposed it all the way through, unlike Jimmy, who's always been compliant, I opposed it. I lost the argument in relation to the zones. However, I was able to convince the Prime Minister that $10 million cap was inappropriate and that we had to look at the impact on shore as well as at sea. And they've been paid over $200 million now. And we've also got compensation for those on the land base. They're now talking about shutting down the entire Gulf of Carpentaria. We will have no fishing industry here. And it means that we will be buying from overseas unsustainable managed fisheries, still buying our own fish, but from countries where there is no management plan, there is no resources in it, and a real high risk of absolutely destroying the industry.
You told me the changing in the green zones also had an unusual impact on small operators who would be affected by the change in the Southern Access Road as well.
Well, of course. I mean, at the end of the day, the Southern Access Road. I mean, all they've done, that $150 million they announced in 2007 to go in for overpasses at Ray Jones Drive. I think that's great. I drove out there yesterday. I haven't seen any work starting for that $150 million commitment. Yet, I'm seeing it again today. They've announced it again recently. They're going to do it in the next term. I say to them, why in the bloody hell haven't they spent that $150 million in the first term? That's genuine stimulus. That would have fixed that problem. But no, they've re-announced it now. And they've moved the problem from Edmonton down to, from Roberts Road. You've got the Portsmouth fuel there on Roberts Road. That's going to be destroyed. Now that is the jewel in the crown of that of Portsmouth fuel. If they lose that one, there's a probability that we will lose the only independent service station we have, or the major independent we have in Cairns, which gives free rein to Woolworths and Coles. The multi-award-winning coconut caravan park, tropical coconut caravan park. They have won awards now. They're the best in the country. They are the best in the state. They're one of the best in the world by cutting off access. That knocks 12 to 15% of their drive-in traffic out. That's more than their margin. Sorry, puts them out of business. And here we have a railway line that gets used once or twice a day. Why in the hell can't you put instead of obsessed with putting a bus lane through that's going to wipe out all these businesses? Why don't you use that railway line? You've got a huge easement there. If the track's too wide, put a narrow one beside it. Schedule your train so you've got light rail going backwards and forwards from Gordonvale to the city. Surely to goodness, that would be far more effective than destroying hundreds of family homes and dozens of very, very lucrative businesses that contribute to this economy. And why in the hell aren't we looking at the southern, a genuine second axis? For a start, you could do. I mean, there are two options that I see. One is on the west of the inlet, between the mangroves and the cane headlands. You don't take a single home, you don't take a single business. You end up around Ormula Street somewhere. And the longer term one, which has to happen, is the Arrabar Road with a bridge across the inlet, across Admiralty Island. It has to happen. There is on that site there in East Trinity, there is a salt pan there that is currently just grazing cattle, nothing else, and it would take about 25,000 people. It would bring the heart back into the city. I could see water taxis going backwards and forwards, bring all of that infrastructure back into the city instead of all the ribbon development we're seeing, which will probably end up at Belden Kur or Fisheries Falls, and of course the impact and the pressure on the hill slopes.